Say read aloud.
Read aloud.
Read aloud.
Read aloud. R-E-A-D aloud. R-E-A-D aloud.
Good morning, scholars. My name is Alexis Wray, and I'm a journalist, and I also used to work for Black Child Development Institute, Greensboro. I'm super excited to share a great book with you all today for Read Aloud. So today I will be reading Daniel Finds a Poem by Mackay Archer. So if you like poetry, this book might just be for you. Daniel knows all the rocks, trees, and animals in the park. There's Daniel. On Monday morning, Daniel sees something new on the park gate. A sign reads, "Poetry in the Park, Sunday at 6 o'clock. See, there's the poetry sign. "What is poetry?" Daniel says. He looks up in surprise when he hears a spider say, "To me, poetry is when morning dew glistens." See, there's the spider, and there's its big web. On Tuesday, Daniel climbs to the old oak tree. He sees Squirrel. "Squirrel, do you know what poetry is?" Daniel talking to the squirrel over here in the park. That's a pretty big park. "Poetry is when crisp leaves crunch," Squirrel tells him. On Wednesday, Daniel calls into Chipmunk's hole. "Chipmunk, can you tell me what poetry is?" There's a chipmunk. There's Daniel peeking through the hole. Poetry. Poetry is a home with many windows and an old stone wall. Daniel is so curious. On Thursday, Daniel makes a boat with a leaf for a sail and watches the wind carry it across the pond. He calls quietly to Frog. "Excuse me, Frog, what is poetry?" "Poetry," says Frog, "is a cool pool to dive into." See the frog diving in the pond? All the fishies. On Friday, Daniel parts the cattails and finds Turtle. "Hello, Turtle. I have a question. Do you know what poetry is?" "I think poetry is sun-warmed sand," Turtle says. There's the turtle. He's so cute. On Saturday afternoon, Daniel finds Cricket in the shade of the slide. There's the cricket. It's little compared to big old Daniel. Crickets are little. When the shadows are long, Cricket fills the air with music. "Is this poetry to you, Cricket?" Crickets are loud. "Singing at twilight when the day is done, indeed it is, Daniel." It's a big old park and a little bitty cricket. A lot of things live in a park, don't they? That night, moonlight fills Daniel's room. He hears a hoo. Leaning from his window, he calls to Owl. "Owl, what is poetry?" That's a pretty owl, huh? You see Daniel in his window? Oh, poetry. Poetry is bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. "Good night, dear Daniel," she whispers, and flies off into the night. You see that big pretty owl flying off? That's some big wings. And the bright, bright moon, and we can even see little bitty Daniel in the window. if we look hard enough. Some pretty art in this book. On Sunday, the sun wakes up Daniel. He is happy when he remembers it's Sunday. Today is poetry in the park, says Daniel, and I have a poem. Okay, it's Sunday. He's at the park. And if you can look closely, you can see everybody that he talked to and asked what poetry was in the park, remember? So we have the squirrel in the tree over here. We have a turtle, a chipmunk, a frog. If you look really closely, you can see the spider. You can see the little cricket in the corner down here. And up here, even the owl came out to support him. So let's see what kind of poetry he came up with. Morning dew glistens, crisp leaves crunch. There's a home with many windows in the old stone wall. Cool pools to dive in, sun-warmed sands to lie in, singing at twilight when the day is done, bright stars in the branches, moonlight on the grass, and silent wings to take me wherever I go. That sounds kind of familiar, doesn't it? On the way home, Daniel stops to watch the sunset sky reflecting in the pond. That looks like poetry to me. To me too, says Dragonfly. Little dragonfly right there. Thank you all for reading Daniel Finds a Poem with me. I hope that you enjoyed this read aloud, and have a great Freedom School, scholars.